Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. When dictator Putin apologizes, the world immediately becomes alert. Because if he says, "I'm sorry," it means that something has happened that even the Kremlin's masters of lies could not completely distort. This is what happened this time. During a conversation with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, Putin apologized for the Azal plane crash near Aktau, where 38 people died last December.
Тогда в нашем первом телефонном разговоре я не только принес извинения за то, что трагедия произошла именно в небе России, но и выразил самые искренние соболезнования семьям погибших. Я хотел бы вот это все повторить, возобновить и сказать, что мы, безусловно, как и договаривались, оказываем всяческое содействие следствию. Следствие заканчивается. И сейчас в целом можно говорить о причинах этой трагедии, этой катастрофы. Она связана с несколькими обстоятельствами. Первое заключается в том, что в небе находился украинский беспилотник. Мы вели сразу 3 таких беспилотника, которые пересекли границу Российской Федерации ночью, в день трагедии. Вторая причина заключается в технических сбоях самой системы ПВО России. И 2 ракеты, которые были выпущены, они не поразили напрямую самолет. Если бы это произошло, он рухнул бы на месте. А взорвались, может быть, это была самая ликвидация, в нескольких метрах, где-то примерно в 10 метрах. И поэтому поражение произошло, но главным образом не поражающими элементами боевыми, а, скорее всего, обломками самих ракет.
Moscow has officially confirmed that the tragedy occurred due to the explosion of a Russian air defense missile, the debris of which damaged the aircraft. Sounds rather typical. Of course, we didn't want it to happen, but the plane was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Plus, Putin suggested a Ukrainian drone was spotted near the incident site, meaning that, lo and behold, it's all Kiev's fault again. In fact, when the Kremlin says Ukraine is to blame for this, it sounds almost like a national motto. A downed plane, Ukraine is to blame. Flooding in Krasnodar, Ukraine is to blame. Putin was late for the summit, again, Ukraine. Also, if we take the causal chain a bit further, let's actually talk about this. The missile wouldn't have been deployed had the Ukrainian drone not been there. If we actually admit to that, then let's ask ourselves the question: why are Ukrainian drones in Russia in the first place? Isn't that because Kiev is fighting back against Russian aggression? Looking at it this way, if Moscow had not invaded Ukraine in 2022, the plane crash, most likely, would never occur either. You can thank me later. After the disaster, the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine was the first to report that the plane had been shot down by a Russian missile. At the time, the Kremlin traditionally denied everything until it became impossible to argue with the facts and the evidence. But even when he admitted this, Putin could not resist a political trick. He turned the tragedy into a diplomatic game of apologies. No sympathy, no help for the families, no air defense reform, just, yes, we made a mistake, but there was a drone there. Cynicism on the level of, we accidentally destroyed your house, but it's your fault for standing in our way. The 38 fatalities became yet another statistic in Putin's great war against the whole world. And even this disaster did not make Moscow think for a moment about responsibility rather than, another justification. The Kremlin has proven once more that human life is nothing more than a side effect of its politics. What matters most is that gasoline continues to be sold and the image of a powerful state does not fade on television. Both of which, by the way, are now becoming a bit of a problem. A while ago, Moscow was preparing for a historic event, the first Russian-Arab summit, designed to demonstrate that the Kremlin is not an international pariah but an influential player in the Middle East. The plan was simple: gather the leaders of the Arab League, take a group photo, say a few words about the Brotherhood of Nations, and most importantly, show the West that Moscow is not alone. But something went wrong. Key leaders in the Arab world did not confirm their participation, and the summit was quietly cancelled. The Kremlin is now talking about a difficult foreign policy situation. That is, as always, someone else is to blame. Russian propagandists held out heroically for several more days, saying that everything is under control, the details are being finalized, and the date is being postponed due to the large number of people who want to attend. Ironically, the main goal of this summit was to show that Russia is not isolated, and yet, in the end, it turned out that the opposite is true. The USSR once had dozens of allies in the Arab world. Today, Russia is a summit without guests, propaganda without an audience, and influence without consequences. One could say that this is a diplomatic fiasco, but frankly speaking, it's just another Tuesday at the Kremlin. It's another big day for economic thought on Russian television. The propaganda crew has decided that if they can't sell oil, they can at least extract reparations from Europe. So, a new concept of justice was pompously announced in the studio.
Я вот думаю, что настала пора прямо публично европейцам, Бельгии, Евроклиру этому сообщить о том, что, смотрите, потом, когда Россия будет брать репарации с Украины за привнесенный ущерб, то вот эти суммы, которые будут изыматься из российских активов, мы будем приплюсовывать к тем репарациям. Чем больше вы там изымете, тем больше потом мы с Украины этих самых репараций возьмем. И пусть они потом считают свои риски и будут спрашивать, откуда потом эти деньги будем брать. В конце концов, будем брать имущество. Оперный театр в Одессе там, или что там.
Зачем нам платить за то, что это так наше?
Да, ну, еще ж пока не наше.
И какие репарации может заплатить Украина?
В
Бельгии заплатят.
Ну,
и Франция
потом нет, спрашивать в судах-то будем из Бельгии, из Франции. Понимаем прекрасно, чем это закончится.
Будем спрашивать в военном трибунале.
Да, вот, в Гаагском. И, вы знаете,
Once, Russia demanded to get up from its knees, then respect its interests. Now, chip in to compensate for the moral trauma of the empire, I guess. And the country that has been shelling its neighbors for years, stealing washing machines and occupying foreign territories, is acting as the injured party here. In this studio, propagandist Kornilov also got so carried away that even the microphone seemed to want to seek political asylum. The idea turned out to be brilliant. Blame Europe for the damage that Russia inflicted on itself. Sanctions? It's their fault. Isolation? They isolated us. We would never have done this to ourselves. Shortage of iPhones and gasoline? It's all NATO's doing. In reality, this whole battle for reparations looks like an attempt to explain their own bankruptcy, with a political conspiracy of sorts. I guess fear of frozen Russian assets being finally taken away is kicking in. But at the risk of sounding cliché, I will once again resort to Monica Bellucci's famous line from Matrix Reloaded: "Cause and effect, my love." And with this we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.